Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Door-to-Door panel. My name is Dr. Thomasina Moore. I'm a 2019 DNP graduate of Vanderbilt University School of Nursing, and I also serve on the Vanderbilt University School of Nursing Alumni Board. I have the pleasure of being your moderator tonight. With that being said, let's get started by getting to know our panelists. So I'm going to actually ask each of our panelists to give what we call an elevator speech. So I'm going to ask you to use anywhere between 90 seconds to 2 minutes each to tell the audience what inspired you to start your business and what were you doing beforehand. So let's start with Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. Thank you all of you for being here, and thank you panelists for letting me be on the panel with you. I graduated from Vanderbilt undergraduate, graduate school, and law school. But my story really starts way back when I was 15 years old. And at 15, I decided to become a nurse because my mother passed away and she had been involved in a bad, serious car accident. And it was out of that I decided to launch my nursing career. I went to Vanderbilt. I went there for an undergraduate degree, a graduate degree in psychiatric mental health nursing. And then I worked on the faculty there. After a while, I decided, gosh, I really thought I had a legal brain and maybe I needed to go to law school and complete the cycle. So I went to Vanderbilt Law School, graduated from there where I met my husband, who also had gone to undergraduate and law school with me, and moved to Memphis. So now I'm a Memphian of many years. We had 4 sons and we live here in Memphis. Well, during the time, all the time that I've been here, I have worked in law firms. First, I worked for a very large law firm doing medical malpractice defense work. And then Johnny Cochran came to town and I worked for him until he passed away. And it was out of that grew this desire to help nurses become what we call legal nurse consultants or nurse expert witnesses. I have used nurse expert witnesses, legal nurse consultants in my legal practice, but I wanted to train them so that they could get the knowledge that they needed to be effective and successful. So that's when I decided to open up jurexnurse.com. And Jurex Nurse certifies legal nurse consultants to be professional legal nurse consultants. And since I did that in 2006, I've never looked back. It's been one of the best decisions of my life. Yes, at first I wasn't really sure, is this the path that I should take? But I decided, yes, go for it, because I wanted to do this. I wanted to empower nurses just like you and me to do something more with our degrees. And so that's when I started Jurex Nurse, and I've been so thankful, so grateful. I've offered it as an online course for years, even prior to the pandemic, but I started it as an in-person course. So it's run the full course. And even today, we have nurses who want either the in-person or the online, and we can afford them that opportunity to do that. So for that, that's how I started my entrepreneurial journey, and I'm still on it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elizabeth. Beth?
Hi there. Thank you everyone for tuning in and for letting me be on this panel as well. My background, I have a bachelor's degree in engineering, and then I changed courses and went and got my nurse practitioner degree at Vanderbilt in 2006. When I got out of school, I started working in an emergency department. I still work in an emergency department some. But one overarching thing that I kept noticing in the ER was that a lot of new graduates, or even people that have been working there for a year or two, didn't have the skills to do some wound closures, foreign body removals, joint reductions, things that they weren't really taught in school. And especially students, when they would follow me, I didn't have time to teach them in a crazy busy ER. I don't have an hour to stop and show you how to sew up a forehead. And so I just realized there was a gap there. So what I decided to do to fill that gap is I developed a course that then evolved into a company called Sutures and More. And I teach students or professionals go around and teach them those skills that you may not want to work in the emergency department, but there'll be good skills you can have in any arena you work in. As an emergency medicine provider, I'm always looking for ways to teach even people in primary care or pediatrics some good skills to keep people out of the ER, because ERs are overflowing all the time. But if I can teach you some skills that you can do on your own in your office, and feel very confident about it, that helps us all. And I just figured out about myself that I like to teach. So this was just a really good combination of me seeing a need and deciding to fill that need and teach. So that is Sutures and More. I'm also a founding partner of a company called Lolios, which myself and a paramedic came up with the idea. He was transporting a patient from a local hospital to Nashville that had to do a continuous breathing treatment, and this kid screamed the whole way. And he came up with an idea. This is a nebulizer treatment that has a sucker on the end. So the kids can be eating the sucker while they're getting their nebulizer treatment. What kid doesn't love a sucker? And so that product, we have gone through the whole patent process, and we're in the point now of trying to push it out and get it across the country. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Beth.
You're
Moving
welcome.
on to Claire.
Hi, everyone. I'm Claire Crunk. I have an undergraduate degree in biology and then graduated from the School of Nursing in 2008. I graduated on August 3rd, and then August 4th, I started my first job as a women's health nurse practitioner at an OBGYN clinic in Columbia, Tennessee, and practiced there for about 5 years, and then opened my own practice in the same town. And what started my entrepreneurial journey with my current company, Trace Stem Care, was during practice, I would take care of folks who had a lot of vulvar dermatoses, pelvic pain, painful periods, rashes, and we had a lot of suspicion that some of these issues came from their period care products. And when I was assessing and trying to diagnose and treat, there were a lot of issues trying to guess, okay, what period products are going to be the best? What's the ingredient in this that's irritating her vulva? Is this just a moisture issue? So on and so forth. The problem was that information was totally unavailable. It's like a big secret in the period care industry. So it was impossible for me to really pinpoint what the problem, what the root of the problem was in the products that were causing my patients' issues. So fast forward, I taught a little bit with Marian University and then with another Vandy grads startup teaching nurse practitioners after they graduate. And then I did a stint in public health. Well, public health just about broke me, you guys. But I left practice from burnout. And during that time, you know, figuring out what the heck I was going to do with my life after leaving practice after 10 years. And that's where I accidentally learned about hemp. And it's like a super hemp story. I learned about it from a dude at a music festival. But my biology and scientific mind just flared, and I learned very quickly that the fiber in hemp can be as soft and as absorbent as cotton, but it can be grown without any pesticides. And there's some potential antimicrobial activity for the fiber naturally. So I thought that would make a great tampon. My women's health brain defaulted to that. And so as I started working on that project, realized why you couldn't find any information about what goes into period products. And that's because the supply chain is very complex. So my company, Trace Stem Care, makes period care products like tampons and pads that are made from hemp fiber and a cotton that's been grown regeneratively. And our special sauce is that we trace all of our materials down to farm level, and we own all of our own raw materials as well. So that way we know exactly what's going into our tampons and our pads at all times. And we have direct influence on how our pads and tampons are grown on the field and manufactured throughout the supply chain. So our customers know exactly what they're putting in their body at all times. And, you know, we choose to use fibers that actually heal the earth. So taking some of my nursing healing modality and applying it in a new way to heal the earth. So we're done with our first commercial production run. We made 110,000 tampons last Monday, and we start sales hopefully at the end of April. But tampons are a class 2 medical device, so we are beholden to the FDA, and we're walking through that process there. So having a nursing background has really helped, and that's what Trace is, and I'm founder and CEO there.
Great. Thank you, Claire. Next up is Katie.
Hey guys, glad to be here. I'm going to do my best with this 90-second challenge. My name's Katie, and I'm an adult geriatric and palliative nurse practitioner, and I'm a DNP grad from 2010 at Vanderbilt, where I've made friendships and networks and connections that have really bolstered my career. What I want to tell you, though, is that I am an entrepreneur now for the last 15 years and an advisor to companies and people, specifically clinical products that are touching the lives of patients. My primary focus is post-acute care, as some people would say, because my passion has always been for the frailest and oldest and sickest populations. The fee-for-service world doesn't work for them. And my time at Vanderbilt really allowed me to think through systems. And with that, I was able to help serve as a chief clinical officer for a startup company called Aspire Health, and learned about how the private world, specifically the venture capital world, can really fast track ideas for people. I also learned about the pull between mission and margin and what it is to be a clinical executive as you scale across 70 markets, 28 states, and hire hundreds of clinical staff. I've taken that knowledge and also help now take and invest in other companies who are trying to build and scale. And so I built Top Site Partners, and I'm the founder, CEO, and investor in that principal, I would call myself as, and I work for companies like Dollar General, who are building new companies within their portfolio. I work for companies, lots of venture capital groups that are building out new products and might invest in something like Trace and say, how do we really scale this? And I come in and help support, especially the clinical side, and make it grow. I'm a maximizer. I arrange things, relationships between money and really great ideas. And I hope to help them grow. And so I've done that between Aspire Health. I've done it with the federal government. I've done it with wound care, behavioral health, you name it. I like to support any company that's solving a problem that needs to be solved and using the network to aggregate that. And so I'm Katie with Top Site Partners.
Thank you, Katie. Last but not least, Taka.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moore, Betsy, and also Sarah, and also the other panelists that are on here respectively. My name is Dr. Taka Cash, Doctor of Nursing Practice 2012, respectively 2013 with my Doctor of Nursing Practice from Vanderbilt University. What inspired me to become just tap into business truly was my education and the philanthropy that I received at Vanderbilt University and the mentorship. And as I transitioned out of my graduate degree, I had a preceptor that was not only my preceptor, he ended up being my mentor as well down in Texarkana, Arkansas. And he kind of grabbed me as soon as I graduated, honestly. I wasn't even in practice but 6 months. And he literally told me, you spend $1,000 all the time. So go out and spend $1,000 on your LLC. And I took him up on the offer. And so therein lies the owner and CEO before you, Privy Oasis LLC. And I respectively started this company thinking that I was just going to take on the world. But then I realized that in business, you can't do it by yourself. So you need other people. So I brought on 2 other Vanderbilt graduates, respectively. That's Naja Nelson. She graduated in 2013, and Dr. Neka John Yababiko, who graduated in 2011 from Vanderbilt University. So a lot of that background, a lot of that mentorship, bringing on other Vanderbilt graduates, that networking, as Katie mentioned earlier, has been pivotal in my career as I've transitioned into the world of not only medicine, but also nursing and combining the two. And when I was 15 as well, as Beth said, I had a life-altering event where I was diagnosed with acute lymphocytic leukemia and given 3 to 6 months to live. And so at that time, I got to see the different roles of the nurses, the nurse practitioners, the PAs, the CNAs, everyone, LPNs working respectively at this huge nursing and also oncology child facility in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, to be specific, which is not too far from Memphis. And so as I was actually obtaining my chemotherapy treatments there was a doctor who had just graduated who took me under his wings, and he was also my oncologist specialist from Greenwood, Mississippi. And so after that, and garnering all of that mentorship and all of that love and support, not only from the age respectively of 14, 15, but all the way up to my graduate years at Vanderbilt, has truly been an underlining and underpinning just forecasting of my life. And I have loved every bit of what I do because I get to educate, I get to teach, I get to inspire, I get to connect. Look at all of these beautiful faces on here. And, you know, what this shows is that this is bigger than just us. The legacy of what we do still goes on. The beauty of what we do still goes on. So it's not just about what inspires me, but what has transformed me. And being a part of a collective group of such profound entrepreneurs, respectively, has been so pivotal in connecting me to the resources that are needed to scale my business. So as Katie has mentioned before, and as Claire has mentioned, and Beth and Liz and everyone, Thomasina, everyone that's on here, we have done so much in the world of not only nursing, but respectively just made our mark in the world of what? As a nurse practitioner. And so you too can actually do exactly what we're doing. So it's not so much about what has just tipped you on the head and said, okay, this has inspired me. Well, what's going to transform the world of medicine, the world of nursing within 10 years, within 20 years, within 30. And I'm glad I'm here as the CEO of Privy Oasis LLC. Back to you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you so much. Wow. This is such an impressive panel. I think the audience is in for a real treat here. I do have a few questions to go round table with you ladies. Thank you again for joining us and sharing your stories with everyone. I first want to start out with Katie. This first segment here, we call it the starting out segment. So it kind of helps the audience realize how you ladies got started in your journey. So Katie, how did you initially fund your company? And was it hard raising capital as a nurse?
Yeah, so let's just think about the incremental steps to doing that. And I won't go into graphic detail because of time, but I would say we do it as nurses all the time. My education at Vanderbilt was an investment in my career. And that's the way I looked at it. And so you find ways to make it happen, right? And what I would say, though, for a company, before I was able to prove the concept of what I wanted to do, there was federal grant money through the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation through when Obama came in 2010. There were lots of demonstrations happening. And there was one about how to keep people out of the hospital. I spent $5,000 of my money to get someone to help me write basically the grant that got me significant capital in the millions to help basically test out my idea, which was a nurse practitioner led model at the time. That caught wind down in Nashville with Senator Bill Frist, who quickly was like, oh my gosh, this has substantial legs. And I think insurance companies would pay for this type of service instead of going direct to fee for service. So what I'm getting at is that it's not just about the investment, it's investing in yourself, it's investing in some of the testing for what you need to do. It might be look different, but then when you get to the place where you've got a real company, a real idea, I was lucky to be introduced to venture capital firms, and it's not one is one. They're all a little bit different and they all have different strengths, motivations. Okay. And so I think it's about shopping and telling your story with strong NDAs, because you don't want people to steal your idea or your patent or things like that, and make sure that you negotiate on behalf of what you can build and where you see this becoming, and companies who have a tenure of doing that they are doing it in the space place where you want to thrive. And so it's a shopping experience. But I would say my experience of getting the capital is building a significantly strong business plan, testing out a concept with a pilot, and then finding someone who is willing to help you pitch that, or be an anchor founder with you that knows this world, or people like me. And that's what my company is about, to help you find where is the right money to help you launch your entrepreneurial career. So
thank you. Excellent
You're welcome.
answer. So next up, I have a question for Beth. So Beth, new nurses sometimes feel that imposter syndrome. Did you, as a budding entrepreneur, have that feeling?
Absolutely. I still have that feeling sometimes. I'm always looking over my shoulder to say, where's the adult in the room? Where's the expert? And I realize, wait, that's me. Wait, you want me to answer that question? So I really think that's a very real phenomenon across the board, not just specific to nursing or entrepreneurs. I think it's a good feeling to have, quite honestly. It drives me to learn more and make sure I'm being correct with what I'm saying, and do more research. And I'm still waiting for that feeling to completely go away, quite honestly. There's always situations that I encounter that I'm like, how did I get here? How is it me? I mean, even this panel, how did I get chosen to do this? Wait a minute. So sometimes you have to step back though and retell yourself, I got here because of the hard work I did, because the investment I put in myself, and because I'm not going to give up. And so I think that internal dialogue is great. And when you can surround yourself with people that reiterate that dialogue for you, is unmatchable. I mean, you can't find that anywhere. But so yeah, imposter syndrome still lurks around, but use it as a positive and help it push you to learn more and know more. And yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Beth.
You're welcome.
Let's move on to Dr. Cash. Can you tell us what nursing skills have come in handy when opening your business?
What I'm doing now, multitasking. So that's number one. But no, seriously. Honestly, multitasking is on the list. Just possessing skills and qualities that regard, like, I always go back to what is most natural to me, what I'm most natural, closest to as a child. I was very observant as a child. I listened as a child. I was naturally a connector as a child. All of these basic just characteristics within myself are still present within not only the discipline that I chose respectively, but also in terms of what I do within as a visionary, as a leader, as an executive within my company. So because of that, it really, the question is more like, what is innate to you? What is most, real for you? What is more natural for you? What is going to push you? What is pivotal for you? What is your why? What is your reason for pushing through what you want to do? And not only that, inspiring others to do what they want to do. Not only I'm listening to Claire, I'm listening to Katie, Beth, and Liz, and all of these beautiful stories regarding how we got started. And in terms of that, when I think of skills, I actually think of qualities first, because everyone can possess a skill. But we all got skills when we went to school. Like Katie said, we invested in ourselves. Okay. They gave us a skill. I remember when I was a CNA, a patient care assistant, and an LPN. Okay. So those are basic skills. But when it comes to actually the implementation, the force that is behind it, the savage leader that it makes you innately, the bottom line is, am I in this for the true purpose of what I am here on earth to do? And once I figured out, honestly, what that was, I pushed through that. And it still resonates in the people that are around me and all of the operational leaders that we have respectively within our companies. The chief, you will see your works and the fruits of your labor around you, surrounded by you daily. And if you don't see that, operationalizing a skill is just a skill. So for me, it's more than just possession of a skill. It's more about what is more innate to me, what pushes me, what is going to wake me up in the morning, what is going to get me to come here at 8 a.m. Oh God, what is going to get me up on a community service Saturday, what is going to get me to a connecting event, even today, which was the first day, I'm gonna keep it real for you guys. It's the first day back in the headquarters, for the new year. And I think for all of the executives that are on here, it's those basic skills of basically coming into your company, just like you come into your house, doing an audit and analysis, that's me being a visionary. That's me being able to look through the lens of my actual practice and see what is there, what is missing, what needs to be here. Because the way that I start off this actual year is how I'm going to end this year respectively. So I want to come in savagely. I want to come in respectively. It doesn't really have to do with the skills that I possess. It's more about what is keeping me up. And this year is our 10 years that we've been in business. And, being that I've been an entrepreneur, my skills can only get me so far, but pushing past that and facilitating past that requires more than a skill. So I want to let you all know that are out there that it's not just about what you are bringing or that you can take from someone or that you can take from an organization, but taking that and applying it and implementing it and actually being a force to be reckoned with it when you actually get it. So don't sleep and be silent and or stagnant on your skills. Actually take your skills and be a force to be reckoned with. And I promise you, in every room that you walk in, the force will be felt, and even in your silence, respectively. So Dr. Moore, I will push it back on over to you.
Thank you for that. All of these are excellent answers. I'm going to move on to Claire now. Claire, how did your family and friends react when you left clinical practice?
Oh, I love this question because there was a reckoning. So I graduated Vanderbilt with $120,000 of student loans. I was a single mom through grad school and took out loans to cover our living expenses. So, worked real hard, paid those off in 2016, and then left clinical practice 2 years later. So when I left, my husband was like, oh my God, what did you just do? You were just starting to make money finally. And my family said, oh my gosh, you spent all of that effort. You worked that hard. Why would you walk away from that? And then my patients were like, don't you love me? Why are you leaving? Please don't leave. And I just think at the time, my friends and family, two things, didn't understand why I would walk away from the security of the profession of nursing. I'm a first-gen college student, and so, it really shocked my family. And this is personal, but here we are. My husband didn't take me seriously at first. And this was a huge rift in our marriage for really the first 2 years. I actually started another company before Trace that helped with Trace's development anyway. And one thing in business is that it might take a while for you to generate revenue and even longer for you to generate profit. And so you might be operating at a loss for some time. And he said to me at one point, if you're not making money, it's not a business. And I think I got a diamond ring out of that. But once he saw how hard I was working, and once he saw my vision, and once I showed him our business model and what that could mean for our family's bottom line and the legacy wealth that I was working to create for our family, that changed his tune. And honestly, like I said, once he saw, and once my family saw how dedicated I was and how passionate I was, and then what sort of amazing things that my company was doing in the world. So when we got in USA Today, I stopped hearing any grumbles from anybody. And then when we got our patent, that too. So, for the first couple of years, I really did have to be my biggest cheerleader, and there was nobody who believed in me. So I really had to believe in myself, and thank God I did.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for being vulnerable and showing your, being so transparent just now. So thank you. And moving on to Elizabeth, you went back to school to get your law degree, and your business helps nurses not to have to get those additional degrees. So can you really tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. I can't tell you how many times when I was speaking, and still do to this day, at conferences and seminars and workshops, where nurses would come up to me afterwards and say, hey, I've heard about legal nurse consulting and I want to be a legal nurse consultant. And what do I need to do? So combine that with, in my actual law practice, seeing the need for very well-trained legal nurse consultants. That's, again, when I started jurexnurse.com back in 2006, because nurses like you and me, we've got these beautiful skills. We just aren't sure how to parlay them into the legal field. That's what getting certified does. It gives you the credibility that you need to be able to do stuff you're already doing, like reviewing medical records. I mean, think about it. How many times a day do you review medical records? But it is sure nice to get paid to review medical records. So that's what a certification in legal nurse consulting does for you, is it gets you paid, and paid well. Think about all the skills that you currently have right now, and think about how you can use those skills in different ways. And that's what, from my perspective, that's what we're doing at Jurex Nurses, training nurses who already have the skills, who don't want to incur any more student loan debt, to be able to be professional legal nurse consultants and have the clout and the wherewithal to review medical records when you walk into an attorney's office, to be able to command the table and say, these are my opinions. And to me, that's just so precious. That's why it's essential that you, if you want to use your skills in the legal arena, and you don't want to go to law school, or you don't want to go and become a paralegal or a legal assistant, that you can use them, but use them in a way not only to help yourself, but for a good cause. Because there are legal nurse consultants, expert witnesses, on both sides of cases, whether it's on the plaintiff side, that's plaintiff meaning the person who's suing, or the defendant, nurse, or hospital, or physician, or nurse practitioner, perhaps, who might be getting sued. So there are ways to use your skills in all different capacities without having to go back and go to school, because you already have the skills, you have the degree. And that's why I started the business, so that nurses could see there were opportunities out there to enhance your skill set without having to, again, take on more debt or take on more school. And frankly, I think the legal arena lawsuits are exciting. I like that. I like to be right there at the table when we're talking about the theme of the case, okay? And that's what you can bring to the table, are all these wonderful skills that you currently have right now without having to go get more skills. But you need to be certified, like I said, for the credibility component of it.
Thank you for that. So that's a good segue into our next section here. I want to talk about how we build a business. Claire, can you talk to us about whether there are some similarities between marketing a business and actually being a clinical nurse or nurse practitioner?
Well, thank you for that question, because I had zero background in marketing when I decided to launch a consumer brand, and was really intimidated by that initially. And additionally, you know, managing marketing teams. But there are certainly skills that we learn and pick up across nursing careers. And one of those is just the nursing process. So, you know, in business, like so many other things, our number one job is to problem solve and to anticipate problems. And marketing requires a lot of data analytics and understanding your customer and understanding how market trends are shifting. And so constantly assessing, diagnosing why sales might be down or why a message isn't hitting right, having an intervention to change that, and then reevaluating if that worked. So that nursing process of constantly assessing and pivoting and getting creative in your interventions, or in this case, changes or whatever campaigns you want to be running. That's one way that my nursing skills have really come into play. The other way is, this is the first hemp tampon ever in the world. And I'm very cautious to greenwash or to fall into the trap of just blanket marketing statements that are misleading, that don't really bring it back to the core science. So having a nursing brain is the balance between science and also ethics. So making sure that our company is telling the truth about everything, but especially our environmental impact and our human health impacts. I will say though, that one of the huge challenges in going against the grain of my nurse self is that of perfectionism. So in business and in startup world, especially, perfectionism can kill a company. It can slow you down and prevent you from moving forward. In healthcare, perfectionism keeps people alive. So I had to overcome that, especially in marketing, where you just have to put things out and test it and go fast, and you can't try and make it perfect. So, that's the other side of how nursing might have informed our marketing and our business.
Absolutely. Excellent points there. Thank you for sharing that. So Dr. Cash and Elizabeth, you both do public speaking. Can you tell me how that has helped your business?
I gotta tell you, I mean, as you already know, you can probably tell I do a lot of social media. And back to you, Dr. Moore. Let me tell you how it helps you, okay? Elizabeth, I'm gonna take this one. So I think a lot of the times we think of those who may traditionally come in utilizing traditional means to access care, meaning like a person who walks off the street, they come into an actual clinic. Where you're online and you're utilizing social media, other platforms, connecting to schools, connecting to different types of pillars in the community, whether you're doing the local sector, the state sector, and or the federal sector and or international base. So you're able to reach a larger population that is outside of your immediate radius of where you're trying to target your consumer base. So your consumer base also gets to see not only the more, how can I say this, more kind of stuffy side of you, because I feel like a lot of the times they'll see my picture online and they'll think that they're going to get this streamlined version of who I am every single day. And it separates Dr. Taka Cash from Taka so that other people can actually see the humanness that resides in the actual executive leader. And a lot of the times we're not able to connect to not only our patients, but also our consumer base, because all they see is just this very robotic, systematic approach to care. And so being that I'm able to not only communicate with the population that I'm serving, giving them an opportunity and a platform to speak to me, not only that, ask me questions, especially respectively within the African-American community, I'm able to broadcast even more broad when it comes to mental health care and accessing that for minority populations, because a lot of the times we are not able to access care, not only that, but also access mental health care and those resources. And being that, I utilize the platform of social media to not only ask questions regarding mental health, but also being able to strategically allow other people to become more comfortable with accessing the care. They're able to see past the structural components of it, and so that we can actually see that there's a human that resides in them as well. So social media, public speaking has its place when you're going to not only community events, being called to school sector events, being able to fly across the United States, going out of the country. You're just able to step outside of your comfort zone, being able to articulate and being able to be concise and succinct, and the stuff that they teach you at the doctorate of nursing practice level. Okay, you're able to implement all of those things. But the biggest overarching reason I think that has impacted my company is truly through connection. I go back again to my purpose. My purpose is to be a connector, a conduit, a transformer. And in that, I'm able to lead more effectively just by being able to touch other nurse practitioners that may be out there that want to know why we do what we do, why we, what is continuing to push me. It is my why. And that is that I am a connector. I'm a person who's meant to be with within the community sector, connecting not only the person to the resource, but the resource to the individual. And then not only that, expanding upon that. It's bigger than us. It's bigger. The vision that everyone that's here, that's on this panel, is bigger than just one singular person. Everyone has a whole entire team that they're connected to that brings that vision alive. So public speaking allows you to be able to just truly just embrace the soul of those that are around you and those that may not necessarily be around you that you can connect to. So Elizabeth, Beth, I will actually send it on over to you. I think it was Beth, correct? In terms
actually Elizabeth.
Oh, it's Elizabeth? Okay, Elizabeth, I will allow you to shoulder this.
Okay, and I'll piggyback on that and say, first of all, no matter what type of nursing background you have, you can be a legal nurse consultant. You can be a nurse expert witness. And I think that's something that's really important, because no matter what track you're in, no matter what degree you have, you can use your skills in the legal arena. And that's very valuable. But in terms of public speaking, I speak at a lot of conferences and a lot of seminars on how nurses can reduce their liability exposure, because unfortunately, nurses do get sued. And the goal is, what can we do to try to cap or reduce our liability exposure when there's quite a bit of exposure out there on any given day? So I will speak internationally. I've spoken recently on a national basis as well. But I just want to tell you that there's so many opportunities to be able to get the message out there. And for me, I've been able to do that at organizations. For example, there's recently been a criminal case against a nurse who gave a medication. It was a medication error and ultimately led to her guilty, or found guilty by the jury. And now you all may be very aware of what's going on with that particular case because it was in the news, but it's impacted nursing in a way that we never really thought that it would before, and that is from the criminal perspective. Largely nurses, if they get sued, if at all, it's usually been civilly. So I've had this opportunity to speak all over the country at various different organizations and to teach nurses how to handle both criminal and civil liability exposure. That's led to helping Jurex nurse funnel and have more legal nurse consultants become legal nurse consultants. So in some ways, it's helped the business immensely by my getting out there and speaking to nursing groups on related topics, but topics that as a legal nurse consultant, you still would be confronted with. So the business, the public speaking business or aspect of what I do, and teaching nurses to be professional legal nurse consultants goes hand in hand, because the issues are the same. And they're usually the hottest legal issues out there for nurses on a day in and day out basis. So I enjoy doing a lot of public speaking because I don't consider it as something that is difficult to do or in any way arduous. To me, it's an opportunity to help other nurses just like you and me and all of us become educated on the legal aspects, which are very important in your job and often are really not, kind of overlooked as you go through your nursing practice and your nursing education. You don't necessarily focus so much on the legal issues until you're confronted with it on a day in, day out basis. So I will pass it back to you, Thomasina. Thank you so much for the question. And I believe that public speaking is an entree to helping your business thrive.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you both. Great answers, wonderful examples from you both. Thank you. Moving on to Beth now. I do want to know, can you share with us what other ways you network?
Thank you. That's a really good question. I try to think of myself personally, networking wise, as I'm a walking billboard for my own company. Whether I'm talking to you about my company or I'm grocery shopping in Kroger, my personality or my integrity or my ethics, all of that shows through no matter what you're doing, whether it's related to your company or not. And so I think one great way to network are contacts you've made along the way. You know, I started out in engineering and I have lots of great contacts there. Then I went to Vanderbilt and met a lot of great contacts there. Just staying in touch with your contacts, always having the utmost integrity and kindness. I mean, we all have times at work. I know that we're talk to our coworkers and may not be as kind about some issues. I mean, I think that's perfectly fine to vent to people. But as far as, you know, like networking your business, don't discount some contacts that you've had in your past, and don't be afraid to call on those contacts when you have questions, when you need help. When you may have a contact that is an expert in social media and you are not great at it. I am not great at it, but I have some friends and some colleagues that are great at it. So, you know, work within your network of people, figure out, you know, how you can help each other, and, you know, just kind of go from there. And also crowdsource. A lot of people, you know, a lot of people, you meet a lot of people in school and your everyday life. They may have some good suggestions for you that you didn't think of yourself. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And Dr. Lanz, can you tell us when you finally knew that it was time to go full-time into your business?
Yes, I can. And I'm actually gonna, I don't think we say it in here, and I think that we'd be remiss not to. It's like, how do you become an entrepreneur in general? Like, when do you know it's time to jump, right? And what I would say is most of us on this call didn't just jump, right? There were different ways that we got there. One thing that I never knew about, because I was raised in an academic medical center, like there was a ladder to climb. I didn't realize there was this whole big, beautiful world out there, big companies that employ people that are more startup-y is what I would say. And there's language like they're still at the friends and family stage, means like a little bit of funding. They might be at Series A. But what I'm saying is, like, just start to look for things that pique your interest. You know, there's a primary care business, Monogram Health, there in Nashville, that's continued to grow and grow and grow. There's, you know, great, I know of one called Upper Line that they were doing podiatry at home, and they're growing and growing. And what you do when you get in with a company as a nurse or nurse practitioner and some legal consultant, however you get in, you can start to watch how it works. Talk to the chief financial officer, because there's only a company of 40 people. Talk to them, understand how they're building the company. Ask to sit in on a board meeting, or to like have some board. Most people who are building a company are very excited to share some of that stuff if they can. And then you learn how it's built. And I would just say, look within your industry about all the different things that are out there. Women's health is doing all kinds of stuff right now. Behavioral health, and talk of what she's doing. So get curious is basically what I'm saying, and look at the jobs that are on Indeed that are not typical. And it might feel like a risk to you because you're leaving this huge academic. I'm telling you, the institution will still be there, and they'll actually probably take you back and pay you more after you go there and do something innovative and can bring ideas back to them. So I think it's time to leave, you know, whatever you feel is the safety construct of your everyday life for this it's a bad ladder. I'm just saying there's other ladders, and it's our rock wall, right? It's actually this big, beautiful thing that we can climb under a rock, and it feels like but man, we can get up to the other side faster on the other. It was just perspective, right? So for me, leaving full time to go into the business that I've built for myself independently was predicated off of working in lots of entrepreneurial companies to learn the way of how to do it. And then I was getting constant phone calls of, Katie, how do I do this? Who's the right person to talk to? Who's the right business plan? Would you consider investing in me? I realized I have something here and I'd like to share it. And I'd like to build a consulting firm that not only invests in companies, but also advises them and serves on boards. And so that's when I knew it was time to do my own thing. But I learned through other companies that I didn't solely build on my own. Yeah.
Wow, that is awesome. You all have provided some really great information for our audience today, so I thank you. We're running short on time, so I'm only going to ask a couple more questions. I do want to ask Dr. Cash, can you share with us what have been the biggest challenges in opening a business?
Oh, okay. I think I'm gonna keep it real on here since we talked earlier and we said we're gonna make this conversation based. So y'all know when you go into business, right? You got to have money, or at least you think you do. Okay. So I think the biggest challenge all of us would be remiss if we didn't speak about money and the fiscal flow and financial condition of an organization. I think Katie touched base on this regarding the CFO, but when you are operationally based and you're going in, all of us will know that it's just one whole department in and of itself. Learning how to bill and learning how to code and learning how to audit. And, you know, honestly, this whole entire panel is a great mix of what is very important when it comes to business, but also looking at, you know, what are going to be some of your struggles and your challenges. We're a representation of that and how you can actually be very strong in those areas. For example, Elizabeth, she has a legal background. I tell you one thing, I could tell you for sure, if I didn't have my business attorney, baby, let me tell you something, okay? I would not be where I am. You know, when you look at Katie, when you look at Beth, when you look at Claire, when it comes to financial condition of an organization and truly understanding how you're going to bill, how you're going to code, where you're going to get this money from, understanding insurance payers. So when you hit those barriers, I don't want you guys to think that failure is an option. Don't even think about that. Think about, hey, I am a biller. I'm a billable service. Boom. I am a bank. Basically, that's what it translates into. And like, you know, like Katie said, you know, if you open up your mind and if you look at things outside of what is in front of you, I think just looking past the failure barrier when it comes to finances, when it comes to legal, because it's going to happen. You know, Elizabeth, there are people like Elizabeth that are looking for you. Okay. They are looking for you. So, when it comes to auditing, when it comes to federal, when it comes to things. So just, it can seem overarching, just a lot of information up at front, but you have to embrace, stop, step back, take a deep breath and know that not only tomorrow's going to come, the next year is going to come and the next 10, and you will end up being a face like Elizabeth, Beth, Claire, Katie, you know, Dr. Moore, Sarah, Betsy, and also Dr. Cash, respectively. So you also have a place in this world of nursing. And because of that, we can't think of it in terms of, you know, what's going to be a barrier for me, but how I can actually embrace those barriers. I can't remember who it was that said, tap into the connections that you actually have. And that is true, because you're going to need a venting partner. Okay. You're going to need a venting partner through the process. That is just one thing that you got to have along this journey, because you have to have somebody that you can piggyback off of. You don't know everything. The mentorship aspect of it is very essential. I think when I met this group of women, we've just been at the hip, honestly. This has been such an amazing opportunity because it's leveraged and also scaled our businesses as well through the connection opportunities. I know that Katie and I talk, you know, more frequently. And so it's just really nice to see how we can bring all of these roles together respectively and embracing them. And so I don't think when it comes to, I don't want anyone that's looking at this, even if you're just a BSN student or an RN, you could be just out there, you could be in music and you're actually viewing this. Respectively, you also have a place in this world called nursing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a nurse to be a CEO. I want you guys to stop and actually sit back and look at the people who are running your organizations. Just do a whole organizational chart and say, who's actually running this business? When you look at it, you'll go, wait, their degrees are different than mine. So you have to be able to step out, not think of a barrier. When you see a door that closed, just say, oh, that door ain't for me. Let me go around here because that door ain't for me. Just keep going past each and every door. So my mind is very agile, is very flexible when it comes to failure. And I think failure is one of those biggest things that I've seen, not only when it comes to me being a CEO, but also on the mentorship side as well. And also being, you know, having mentees, you're going to see that struggle from all those different layers. And I think all of us have, you know, at one point looked at this and gone, wait a minute, but this was early on. You got to remember, we've been over 10 years in the game. So right now, our brains are more like, I don't even think of failure anymore. Failure is not an option. It just has to happen. And we have to be savage when it comes to leadership. And so with that being said, Dr. Moore, I think when it comes to, I want everyone to walk away with the notion that they can do it too, that you don't necessarily have to have, like, you know, Elizabeth said, all of these degrees. You don't have to have all these degrees to do what we're doing. And so, you know, but I will say that my degrees from Vanderbilt and the mentorship and the education, oh my gosh, has truly been phenomenal and pivotal in terms of the application, taking all of that skill, all of that knowledge, and all of everything they gave me and applying it within my clinic 10 years ago. That's why I'm still surviving year over year with the basics that I was taught at Vanderbilt University. So when it comes to barriers, I got to tell you, I don't really even think about it, Dr. Moore, because there's more work for all of us to do. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dr. Cash. Well, I did have one last question that I want to ask, but I need a really quick answer, and I'm just going to throw it out there for anybody can answer this, okay? Do nurses make good entrepreneurs?
Maybe I can answer that one. And the answer is absolutely yes. We come to the table with skills that are so broad and so useful. We understand patients, we understand families, we understand each other, we work together, we network, we handle all different types of professions that we interact with and work with on a day in, day out basis. Use those skills, parlay those skills into your entrepreneurial spirit. As Dr. Cash was saying, I mean, the world is your oyster in essence. You know, you can do anything that you want. There's so much out there that you can use, that you've got the skills, the experience, the knowledge. I could go on and on. All of those are essential in becoming an entrepreneur. And what does it mean to become an entrepreneur? It means just start, take one step towards your goal. It doesn't mean you have to accomplish it. It means that you are working towards whatever it is that you want to do in this world and in this life.
Absolutely.
And we're the most trusted profession. We are, and what is my biggest accomplishment in all of this is that people call me, they pick up the phone at the federal government or wherever, and they say, I need you to look at this. They trust us. And you can get paid for that trust when it's really good advice that helps people solve problems.
Come on,
and that's what we do. Yeah.
I'd like to add too, also, it is possible you can be an entrepreneur with a small business. It doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 company. It can be a small business that you're still doing while you're still working your job. So while everyone's goal is to be wildly successful and have a big business, that's great. But if you look around and find a need, it can be small, and that's perfectly fine too. And I think nurses are great at it, whether it's small, whether it's large. We can do it all.
We can do it all. That sums it up. Thank you so much. Well, we are at time for this door-to-door session. And on behalf of Vanderbilt University School of Nursing, I would just like to say thank you again to our panelists for providing such great information tonight. If you all don't mind, if you would drop your information in the chat, such as a link to your website or some way that the audience can connect with you, that would be great. And I also want to say thank you to those who are viewing this door-to-door session. We really appreciate you for joining us tonight. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Hi, guys.